All right, we're back with another edition of Talking Preps. There was a golf joke previous to this that none of you guys would get unless you know Coach Joe Badgett at Carmel Christian, who lives on the golf course, I believe. I believe he pays rent on the golf course somewhere. Are you guys ready for another episode?
Yes, sir.
All right. Chelsea went ham this week, y'all. She got the McDonald's All-American India Nivar and her coach. I mean, it was a really good interview. I can't wait for you guys to see that. And we're going to get to it all on the backside of this. Okay, so before I bring Coach Joe Badgett and star player Cade Tyson onto the show, there was a little game that happened on Saturday night in Chapel Hill, and Gary was talking about this game a week ago.
One is cyclical, okay? We go through these ebbs and flows as to who's the dominant program in the ACC and maybe nationally between the two schools. But how many national recruiting championships has Duke won in the last decade? Every one. And what difference has it made? They got one title out of it. So it's no big deal. The Carolina guys are going to stay 2 or 3 years. The Duke guys are going to stay 1 year. And 2 or 3 year guys are going to end up beating the 1 year guys, just like last year.
Gary, I just want to give you the floor to have a little mea culpa time.
Well, when I said they're going to end up beating the 1 year guys, I didn't mean this group of 2 or 3 year guys. Definitely not this group. As I said, I had a game last night, so I didn't get to see it, but I got a whole bunch of texts and calls about it, and I recorded it, and everybody's telling me you don't even want to see it.
Nah, you need to watch it. You should definitely watch it this afternoon, Coach. There's nothing else better on TV. I think you should go ahead and run it back one time.
I'm going to go ahead and delete that one, and, I'll lick my wounds from afar. But you got to get on that recruiting because the talent level in Chapel Hill is not up to expectations. I'll tell you that much.
All right, Randall, your rebuttal to Gary, because Gary went at you last week, so your rebuttal.
I mean, it's the same as the game show. Like, I don't lose. I told you exactly what was going to happen when the Blue Devils went to Durham. The Blue Devils took care of business, proved me right, and now we'll get them here in a couple of weeks. It's going to be great.
Yeah, that game in Durham is going to be hard. Cade's last game at home, the crowd. I mean, that's going to be a tough one for North Carolina. But sometimes kids like being in those adverse environments and take advantage of that. We'll see what happens.
But let me interject one thing here.
Go ahead.
Langston, you don't seem to be repping our university as much as I have to take.
Oh, he's fighting Irish all the way. I'm fighting Irish all the way now.
I'm a little split. I was in Raleigh yesterday. I didn't even see the game because I was in Raleigh at the state game, and then we went to Bahama Breeze, and there wasn't even a TV in front of me. But, oh, by the way, Bahama Breeze, shout out for the Pineapple Bowl yesterday. Oh, my God. It changed my life.
This man has every excuse under the sun for why he's not talking about Carolina basketball this year.
I'm not trying to go there. I got plenty of emails and plenty of text messages. Your team, your boys, your guy. Hey, man, I went to Carolina. I love Carolina. My son plays Notre Dame. I'm Notre Dame first right now. Notre Dame played Carolina.
We just in the down cycle, Randall. Give us 2 years.
All right, so we got Coach Joe Badgett and the star player Cade Tyson on the show. Joe, you got any thoughts about Carolina and Duke?
Well, I'll tell you this. I talked to Langston last night, and he said, I'm coming back from Raleigh. I said, well, how did the guys do? He said, we won.
That sounds about right, Coach Joe.
Well, there it is. Well, Coach, tell us about your team right now. Definitely, looking like you're going to have a chance to challenge for a state championship again. You're always in the state championship. It seems like 10 out of 12 years you coach, you've been in the state championship and got a really good team. How about your chances this year?
Well, first off, thanks for having us on. We really appreciate it. This year's group they're pretty good. They work hard. We have scoring. They're doing a lot better defensively than I anticipated at the start of the year. So anytime you're willing to go out and commit to defending, example, like yesterday, we took 5 charging fouls in the game yesterday. So when you got a team that's committed to doing those type of things, then you're going to have a shot. And that's what it's all about, just putting in the work to have a shot and then see what happens from there.
Coach, what do you think contributes to the success you've had year after year? Before you got to Carmel, that you was always involved in a state championship, and now you've been at Carmel several years, and you always seem to be in the running and one of the top coaches in the state.
Well, I mean, we've been blessed with a lot of talent. People can say, you're a great coach and all that. At the end of the day, if I have 5 or 6 college kids on my roster, then it's a pretty good chance we're gonna win a high school game. So, we put in the work with these kids, and they buy into what we teach, and it's real simple. You're going to defend, and I'm not going to say anything to you about offense. And that's just the formula. So it balances out to where if they commit to doing the defensive things that they need to do as a team, which is what's really going to be crucial when they go off to college. If they do that at the high school level, then I leave them alone on offense and just tell them to share the ball. And so that's been the formula from year one, and there's no need to change it when it's been working the way it's been working.
Coach Badgett, thank you for being here, and congratulations on another successful season thus far. I know you want a lot more success to come. A couple questions for you here. As everyone on this panel knows, and that for which I'm chided very often, I am obsessed with what teams do defensively, and I applaud what you said about defense thus far. What is the art or the formula or the prevailing strategy in terms of teaching defensive buy-in in this age and time where everyone wants to shoot 3-pointers? We're talking about shot clocks in high school, which would speed up the game. I'm concerned that will ruin players learning how to play defense correctly. But you get your kids to buy into that. What is the prevailing strategy you use to accomplish that? And then the second follow-up question is, what is your secret formula to distinguishing yourself as the Jay Wright of high school basketball in terms of being a championship-winning coach who obviously is the best dressed coach, too, in the game?
You see Cade's reaction to that? That's what I like.
Oh, man. That's one of the things I was looking forward to with this was I knew Alex was going to come at me with something. The strategy on the defensive side of what we do and what we've always taught, we get the buy-in is real simple. And, Cade can tell you this. If you don't do what you're supposed to do defensively, you come out the game. So the other things that you want to do, shoot threes and all of that stuff, you can't do it sitting over there with me. So if we're saying we're not letting people drive to the middle of the floor and you get beat to the middle of the floor, you hear the horn sound. You go down and shoot a 3-pointer and there's an air ball, I don't open my mouth. So it's kind of a great deal for the kids. And so that's where the buy-in comes. And, once they know we're serious about that, if you defensive mistakes, you come out the game. So that's what's worked for us. I think Coach Rick has been around me in Langston back when I was even coaching at Queens Grant. And you had the coaching shirts and I used to have some boots on. And so I made so much noise and was so crazy on the sideline at that time that I need to put on a suit to kind of control myself a little better. So that's where that started. And it works. You tend to be less likely to jump up on the floor and do something crazy when you got a suit on and a coat buttoned up. So where that comes from.
Joe, how many texts have you gotten in your career?
None.
No texts. It works. It works. Now I knew that step before I asked. That's why I was asking.
Wow.
All right, Cade, is this true what he's saying about defense? Because if you don't play defense, he's gonna sit your 25 points a game down on the bench. Is that true?
It is true. I mean, I hear it from him in practice all the time, so I can attest that it is true. So,
what's it like playing for Coach Badgett, and what's it like playing for Carmel Christian?
It's really fun. Like he said, he gives us freedom on the offensive end, and I look forward to offense, as you can tell. I've become a little bit more defensive minded with Coach Badgett and everything, but it's awesome to play for him and awesome to play for our atmosphere with Carmel Christian. So.
What led you? I mean, your brother was like the first or second all-time leading scorer in Union County history, Hunter Tyson. Shout out. I hope he's getting better with his collarbone. Shout out to Hunter. That's my guy. But what made you decide to leave your home school where your dad's the principal and come to Charlotte to play private school basketball?
I just thought it was the best choice for me, looking into my future, trying to go somewhere for college that I feel like would be the best fit for me.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Coach Badgett made it clear to me that I would fit in at Carmel, and it would help me to have a better future in basketball. So,
Sure. What's been the biggest difference between playing in Union and playing against what you're playing now?
the competition's a lot better in private school up in Charlotte. So that's the biggest difference probably. And then in practice, I see a lot more competitiveness. So, yes, sir.
Cade, what was the decision-making process in picking Belmont as far as your final, selection for your college?
So it was just the best fit for me basketball-wise and academic-wise. I felt like my faith is a big part of who I am, and that's a Christian college up there, so that was pretty important to me. And the coaching staff and the teammates up there helped me feel home when I went on my official visit up there. So that was a big part as well.
Here's a question I have. Who's better, you or Hunter?
Shoot, I got to say me.
Right now to 21.
Right now? He got a broken collarbone.
No, not right now.
Help you. One more question, Cade. With a lot of young players today, a lot of people want to wait until they get the biggest offer. In your situation, you committed early. You've had a great year. You're a candidate for, Player of the Year in North Carolina. A lot of people go, well, you know what? If Cade would have waited, he could have gotten something bigger. How do you respond to that?
Well, I'm just confident in my decision to go to Belmont. And, I learned a lot from Hunter's recruiting process. And when he got to Clemson, I felt like he chose the biggest offer he had. And when he got to Clemson, it was kind of a struggle for him. And I kind of just wanted to play right away. I like to play. And I just thought it was the best choice for me. So I have confidence in my decision and looking forward to going to Belmont in the future.
I think it's a great decision. And one thing a lot of young players don't understand and comprehend is go to the level you can be most successful at. And I think you're going to have a great career at Belmont.
Thank you.
Yeah.
KD, they try to ask all the serious questions, and Coach Joe wants to talk about defense. I really don't care about that. I just care about putting the ball in the back. I just care about putting the ball in the basket, Cade. Okay, this is my question for you, Cade. At home, backyard, growing up, what is your most memorable moment between you, your brother, and your dad playing one-on-one?
Okay, so with my brother, we would always fight. Like, I hated losing. And I would always be the one to get in trouble because I would always initiate the fight. Apparently, I guess. But he would drive in on me, and I'd be playing good defense, and he would swing his elbows and hit me in the chin multiple times. And I would always go to my dad and start screaming and yelling. And my dad was just like, "Shut up and go play." And I was like, "What?" So that's probably the biggest memories I have. And then, yeah, that's just pretty much it. My dad always yelling at me to stop crying.
Joe, this question is for you. You've already told us what your culture is like at Carmel Christian with, everybody's accountable on defense and go have fun on offense. But over the years, among your teams, how would you say this team, your current team, what is their identity compared to some of the other good teams you've had in the past? How does their identity differ?
Well, I think the biggest difference with this is this team has a clear identity when it comes to who they want to have the ball. Because when you're not kind of structured and the coach is not saying nothing offensively, as long as you're defending, then you tend to think you're a little better offensively than you are. And so the rules of basketball are still there. Sometimes you open for a reason. And so getting the kids to kind of develop that themselves as to what their offensive identity is going to be, that's always the struggle in our system. But because everybody wants to be the man per se, but this team here has a they've taken they know how important Cade is to them. And so you can look at last year's team. You had Burnham, Man, Cade, Taylor, and those. It was kind of okay, I'm open, I'm gonna shoot it. Well, this year, if I'm open and Cade is open, they're gonna pass it. And so that identity really helps because it shows that the team understands what they need to be doing to be successful. I think that makes that's why this team is a lot better, I would say, than a couple of teams we've had in the past.
All right. Well, Cade, I need you to do me one favor.
All right.
Cade, it's not gonna happen. Sorry, bro.
I need you to beat Randall in the game show. He's undefeated with the tie, and he's running his mouth, and we got to take him down a notch. He's getting a little cocky.
All right.
And we got to take him down a notch. So the rules are, Gary's going to read the question. Don't answer until after the question's over, and you'll go first, and Randall and you, and back and forth. And hopefully you're going to beat him, shut him out, and we're going to quiet him because he's already got enough to brag about with his team in Durham. So we need to make sure he doesn't get to brag about this.
All right.
So let me find Randall's little theme music, and then we're going to get to it.
I'm Randall Clark. I am not Sam Griner. You will not beat me on the game show.
All right, Gary, here we go.
Okay. Cade, first question. This streaming show was the most watched in the world last week, racking up 2.1 billion minutes watched. A, The Witcher. B, Cobra Kai. C, Queer Eye. D, Stay Close.
I got to say B because that's the only one I know.
D, Cobra Kai. What you got, Randall?
D, Stay Close.
D, you said D, Stay Close. You are down, Randall. Cade has the lead. It is Cobra Kai. And Gary, you told me you bought some new glasses and you can't read the screen.
Is that say 2.1? You didn't send me the questions this year.
I did send you the questions. I absolutely sent you the questions.
Okay,
Chelsea, did you get the
questions?
I sent you
I
the
got them
questions.
right in my email.
I'm looking for them.
Yes, I sent you the questions.
Okay.
All right, Chelsea, here we go.
What was the #1 album in America on the Billboard Top 200 last week? A, Encanto soundtrack, various artists. B, Colors, NBA Youngboy. C, Drip Season Forever, Gunna. Or D, 30, Adele.
C.
D, 30, Adele.
D, 30. What'd you say, Kate?
C, Gunna.
C, Gunna. The answer is A, Encanto soundtrack. You're both wrong. And Chelsea, you get bonus points for knowing what DS Forever stood for. I did not know that.
That was actually really good.
Yeah, and she just laid it in there real smooth too.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah, it's real smooth. Chelsea's gonna be like a TV star. When Chelsea and I mean the people we have on here helping us is just incredible. It is Gary. Let me find the right question. Okay, here we go. Gary.
Which team drafted ESPN announcer Jay Billis in the 5th round of the 1986 NBA draft? A, Atlanta. B, New York. C, Dallas. D, San Antonio.
Okay, what you got?
I'm gonna go B, New York.
B, New York. Randall, what you got?
I'm gonna go C, Dallas, since he went New York.
Yeah, Randall just got it right. And Cade, you almost said C.
I know.
He was drafted by Dallas. He was the #1. He was a 108th pick overall in the 5th round. They had more rounds back then. Played 3 years overseas before became a Duke assistant coach in '89 and coached in '92 through a couple of national championships. And then he became, the best college basketball announcer I've ever seen. After that, shout out to my guy Jay Billis. All right, next question, and we are tied at 1-1. Chelsea has the read. Let me find the question. All right, Chelsea, go ahead.
Which player leads the NBA in steals this season? A, Chris Paul, Phoenix. B, Marcus Smart, Boston. C, DeJounte Murray, San Antonio. Or D, Gary Trent, Toronto.
Randall.
B, Marcus Smart, Boston.
B, Marcus Smart. What you got, Kate?
I'll go C, DeJounte Murray.
My man.
Oh
Coming
my
through.
God.
Coming through. Cade, I knew that was the reason why I tried to get you to play for my basketball team years ago.
Hey, I was gonna say Marcus Smart.
You played one tournament with me and left. We're not gonna discuss that. All right, the last question, and Randall's in the hole. You got him, Dormy. Come on, come out. Let's go, Gary.
What is the average price of a ticket for the Super Bowl this week? A, $5,500. B, $7,500. C, $9,500. D, $11,500.
Come on, Cade. Get the right answer. Knock him out.
I'm gonna say B, 7,500.
B, 7,500. Randall, what you got?
I'm gonna go A, 5,500.
Randall is now in the losing column. The answer is C. Randall got to take it.
Somebody finally did it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Now I'm never gonna hear the end of it this week.
No, you're not. You can hear about it all week.
Oh my goodness.
Coach Joe, Rick had a question for you. If I let you guys get out here and let you get on the golf course, I know. See, you trying to act like you don't have your collar shirt in the back, in the slacks, but we know we
ready to roll.
Great, Rick.
Hey, Coach, a lot of times you were looking at analytics as far as shooting, and a lot of people go one of the worst spots in the game today is a mid-range jumper. But your guy, Cade Tyson, is really perfected that shot fake, one dribble mid-range. To discuss that.
Well, you'd be surprised at some of the other stuff he can do mid-range too that he's been working on. But his one dribble, he's so long and athletic, and he keeps the ball high enough. We've been working on playing a little lower, but he keeps the ball high enough to where he knows how to get the spots, which at the high school level that's a very unique. I mean, he'll get to a spot, and then he's so long and athletic, he just shoots over top of you. Where most kids, once they get inside that 3-point line, they're just trying to get to the rim. So that's a big advantage for Cade and makes his efficiency level. When you talk about the analytics, it's off the charts. I mean, we had one game, he had 48 on 26 shots. So that's the type of stuff he does all the time. I thought he had a bad shooting game yesterday, but when you look at the analytics, he had 33 on 19 shots.
Wow.
And most of that, and I think he hit 1 3-pointer the whole game.
Between him and Daniel Sanford, they have the best mid-range game of anybody in the state of North Carolina.
Yeah.
And Daniel Sanford's come a long way. I saw him when he was in 7th or 8th grade, and he was just strictly an inside player, shooting layups with his left hand. Now he's shooting jumpers with his right hand. It's incredible the progress he's made. But Cade, congratulations on such a good season so far. Hopefully we're going to see you in the state finals in a couple of weeks with Coach Joe, because he always gets there. Like only 2 years, I think he's not been there. So, Coach, congratulations on a great career. Hope to see you soon. Shoot a good 89 for me today.
Yeah, it's gonna be said. I ain't shot 89 in a long time.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for coming on, guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
Bye.
That's Cade Tyson and Joe Badgett. This two good guys. Cade Tyson is a fun guy. His brother Hunter, I coached him. He's a fun guy too. All right, so we're going to go on to the rundown, and let me. Randall's house with technical difficulties. Let me take him out for a second. Let's go to the rundown and find it. And I got a question for you, Rick, when I find it. I was doing a story yesterday about a kid named Will Kelly, Stuart Kramer, who's having a phenomenal season. When I was researching that story, I found that there's 3 kids from North Carolina that are 1, 2, and 3 in America in scoring. What do you make of that, Rick?
Well, it's first of all, congratulations to those 3 guys for having a great year. It's sort of like in the movie Hoosiers, where they measured the goal, and the goal's still 10 feet tall, and the 3-point line's the same distance for everyone. So, they are having a great year. I do think it's sort of the big fish in the small pond analogy, but you usually see these type of things where you have a really good player in a very small town market. That's not always the case, but, if you look at it, 80% of the time you're looking at someone who's really good in a very small town market, but that doesn't take away the accomplishments that each one of these have had this season.
Gary, what do you think when you see this list?
Well, it kind of goes back to what Rick says. If it's a small market, you don't have as much talent, and they don't have to share the ball as much. In a large urban setting, such as the Charlotte or Raleigh area, you're going to have hundreds of basketball players, and they're going to be pretty much evenly split up among 7-8 schools, and they're going to have to share the ball. I mean, that's what Joe just talked about in his interview about how they have to share the ball in order to play for him. And so when you're say, for example, if you're at a school and you're the only school in the county, or the only private school in the county, it's probably a small county, and you just don't have as many players, and so it's easier to put up those kind of numbers.
I hear what y'all saying, but 37.5 points a game every single night in 32 minutes, that's a lot of putting the ball in the hole.
Well, I think that's a good point, and I do think competition does matter. Again, it doesn't take away from the accomplishments those three guys have had. But for example, if you take Cade Tyson, who's averaging probably 24, 25 points a game at Carmel in one of the toughest conferences, and they played a national schedule as well. If he was playing in a small town market, he could be averaging 40 plus points a game.
Yeah, it's true. It's a good point. It's a good point. I just that just really struck me when I saw that. I was like, wow, I don't know if I've ever seen something like that where one state has like the top three in the country, and I wasn't very familiar with any of those schools. To your point. All right, Alex. Charlotte Catholic and Chambers dropped games recently in the 4A West. Does that mean that loaded girls field we've been talking about is opening up a little bit?
No. And by the way, did I say no? No. What you have going on right here is the same competition level that we knew coming into this season would be the case, and it's just playing out. It's the same thing that's been going on and on for years and years and years in terms of who can emerge out of the women's basketball 4A fight club in the West. We had the 4A fight club in the football. So basically what we're having here is the women's basketball 4A fight club and who can come out of it. And I want to tie into, we spoke earlier about last night's Duke UNC game.
Yep.
Now, everybody got concerned. It was 30 years ago when Duke was beating everybody coming off that first national championship. They were beating everyone, went into the Smith Center, lost a tough 2-point game. Everybody started wondering, hey, is that a chink in the armor or something going on here? Before Duke turned right back around in the regular season finale in Durham and won by 22 points, I think it was. That's the same thing you have going on right here. That's how competitive the level is among these top teams. And no, there's nothing opening up.
So it's just iron sharpening iron. All right, Chelsea, up your way. We got a big game on Monday night. Millbrook and Wake Forest are both unbeaten in the conference. They're facing off against each other. What do you think is going to happen?
I think this is a matchup where either team can come out with a win. If I had to pick a team to favor, and I'd choose Millbrook. I think these past few games they've kind of had a rocky first half, but have really been able to close out in the fourth. But again, as far as Millbrook this season, they've played some competition where they haven't been able to come out with that win. So especially against Wake Forest in the conference, I have either team. I wouldn't be surprised if either team pulls out.
Rick, what do you see on this one?
Well, on Millbrook, you have tradition and leadership on their side, plus they're defending state champions. And, their two leading scorers are seniors, and they also have the freshman in Colt Langdon. They come into it with 13-8 overall, 7-0 in the conference. On the other hand, you have Wake Forest, who sort of the new kid on the block. They lost their first 3 games of the year, but they've won 16 straight. What's really impressive about Wake Forest is they have 4 juniors that's averaging between 10 and 13 points. And you have 2 seniors that are averaging right at 9 points. So they have a lot of balance. they're going to be playing back-to-back games. I believe they play Monday at Millbrook, and then they turn around and play each other at Wake Forest on Tuesday. So I could easily see those games being a split and both teams tying for the conference regular season championship.
Alex, go ahead.
I want to follow up on the great analysis Rick just offered right there about a very young Wake Forest team in terms of the junior class. I want to add what could be the X factor in terms of putting Wake Forest over the top for a signature win in this situation right here is Wake Forest's 6'6" sophomore, Javian Alston. He gives them that interior presence to complement those 4 perimeter-oriented juniors and just gives them that presence they need. A lot of times we say, it's a great group of shooters. If they can find something on the inside, then we'll see where it goes. Right. Javian Alston gives them that option, and I'm looking forward to being at least one of these games and seeing what happens. I will say, to Chelsea's point, that Wake Forest last won a conference championship in 2001 when Eric Williams, or I should say Wake Forest High School now. It was Wake Forest Rolesville at the time.
Okay.
Last won a conference championship in 2001. Now the stars seem to be aligning, but until this group breaks through with that signature accomplishment, then I'm waiting to say anything until it happens.
All right. Gary, you were at the North Meck Chambers game on Friday, absolute sellout. What was that atmosphere like, and what should the Queen City Conference do to make sure fans can see the conference title game?
Okay, correction. I wasn't there. I watched it online.
Okay.
But
that's the way fans can see it.
Yeah, the atmosphere was awesome. I mean, it was packed for the girls' game, which was also a good game.
Yes.
Shout out upset Chambers.
Yeah, shout out.
Yeah, and so the atmosphere is what it should have been for a big time high school game like that. Really, it looked like a regional final. That was the atmosphere. As far as what they can do to get people at the game, I don't know where the Queen City is holding their conference tournament. Do you?
I don't. I would suggest Huff though.
Well, I would think Mount Creek would be the best one. They have the biggest gym.
It's bigger than Huff?
Yeah, it's bigger than Huff.
All right, well, wherever the biggest gym is.
Yeah, I think it should be at the biggest gym, which would be Mallard Creek for their conference. But for future reference, I'd like to see CMS go back to. We used to have something about a decade ago called Championship Friday.
I know what you're about to say.
Championship Friday.
At Bojangles.
Out at Bojangles. And you play every championship game out there, girls and boys. And the kids from all over the city. I mean, they would have 8,000 people out there.
Yeah.
And it was packed.
Sometimes it was 2 days. It'd be Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, well, you could do girls on Thursday. You have all 3 conferences, 3 girls championship games, and then boys on Friday or vice versa. But that was a great atmosphere. You didn't have to worry about people not getting in.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm just like, I just want to shout out Vicky for. I mean, she was very. She did a great thing by putting that together. Great crowds, just as you said. But Alex, go ahead. What's your point?
I'm going to go ahead and help the cause here. What should happen to the Queen City Conference Tournament? Like all other conference tournaments, it should be canceled. And here's why it should be canceled.
Why is that, Alex?
It should be canceled. The Queen City Conference Tournament and all conference tournaments should be canceled, because if we cancel it during conference tournament week, that will be the opportunity that we can hold a Charlotte-Mecklenburg City County Championship. There is nobody. I'd like to say that there is nobody on this show who ever has advocated for a Charlotte-Mecklenburg City County Championship. Nobody on this show wants to see it happen.
I gave up on that long time ago.
Nobody has ever sounded the trumpet wanting to see a city county championship. So in the spirit of that, I'd like to help the cause here and say that that all conference tournaments should be canceled so we can move toward planning the first ever Langston Wirtz Charlotte Mecklenburg County Championship.
Hey, Alex, I even submitted a plan to Langston a couple of years ago.
I have too.
Yeah. No, I think that'd be a great idea. But I think, in the immediate, I think getting some type of deal with the city that hosted Bojangles would be a great idea. This year, next year, this year especially, but next year, whatever they do, that'd be amazing. But it's time for Chelsea's World, so we're gonna get out of the way and let Alex and Gary and Chelsea talk about her phenomenal interview this week.
Yeah, so this week I interviewed McDonald's All-American All-Star athlete India Navar from Apex Friendship alongside her head coach, Coach Campbell. And that just being such a big achievement, just talked about, her goals, her achievements thus far. And with Coach, just their mindset for the season and the idea of state championships.
Chelsea with
This week, I'm interviewing Apex Friendship women's basketball senior India Navar, also named McDonald's All-American athlete in Stanford Commit, and also her head coach, Coach Campbell. So, Coach, I'll go to you first. Kind of discuss that season so far that you guys are having. You guys are 19-1, and that winning record.
It's been a very good season so far. We kind of scheduled it so that we would have some challenges. We tried to control our non-conference schedule this year so that we would have some good competition. We played in High Point in a Thanksgiving event and then in the John Wall. So we tried to test ourselves thinking that we would be pretty strong this year, and we have continued to play well so far.
For sure. And kind of going to a player's perspective, India, kind of talk about, the importance of winning to you as an athlete and also, the meaning to your senior year.
Winning is very important. I feel like everybody on my team, as well as me, we demonstrate that every day in practice that winning is important to us, as we always try to give 100% effort and just being determined, because we all feel like we can be successful this year, which is shown in our record. But being my senior year, I feel like it kind of demonstrates the growth that has happened over the last 4 years on the team. At the beginning, when I first came, we were pretty good. Our record, it was decent, but not how well it is now. But that growth is definitely something that shows like we built up the program, which is something I'm proud about.
For sure. And Coach, out of that whole record, 19-1, this could be an out-of-conference game tournament in conference, but what's one game that really stands out to you as a team performance?
I think probably either the last Panther Creek game, because that was our one loss.
Mm-hmm.
And not that we're vindictive, not the right word, that we wanted to get a chance to play again, and we may play again farther down the road, but to kind of right that first wrong. They played really well the first time, and we did too in the second half, but that probably stands out the most of the 20 games so far to me.
For sure. And India, same question for you. And this could also be your personal performance, if that is a contributor to your favorite game. And if so, kind of talk about that a bit.
I would have to agree with Coach Campbell on the Panther Creek game. It was leading up to it. We all were we were focused because we know that was our only loss this season, and we kind of wanted to avenge that loss. And even in that game, I felt like we didn't even play our best, and but all of our effort that we put into the game got us the win. We went through so much adversity, I would have to say, during that game, and I feel like it shows us that we can win no matter any of the circumstances. So that's why I feel like that's my favorite game.
Absolutely. I'm sure that was a great one. And India, you are named a National McDonald's All-American athlete. Congrats on that. Just kind of talk about what that achievement means to you and what you look forward to having that title.
Oh, I would say it's definitely an honor to be McDonald's All-American. Ever since I chose to play basketball as my first sport, that's always been a goal on my mind. I'm very grateful and humbled by being selected, and I feel so appreciative of all the people involved in my journey, and it kind of checks off a box, so it makes me makes me super happy that I got to check off that box off my list. But yeah, I'm excited for it.
Absolutely. That's awesome. And back to you, Coach Campbell. India's kind of talked about her personal progress a bit. From you watching her in a head coach position, just kind of talk about how you've seen her grown as an athlete over these few years.
And I think the areas where I've seen the most growth is India's developed into be a really, really good leader, which is not that common at the high school level. I've had kids over the years that have tried to lead and didn't do it by example, try to be vocal leaders, and kids that were good leaders by example but never spoke up. And India has been able to blend those things without sounding bossy, which is a difficult skill because not a lot of other high school kids want to take leadership from somebody from one of their peers. And I think defensively, she has grown a ton. When she was a freshman, she relied a lot on her natural ability and her instincts and not so much on technique and fundamentals. And now she has combined those things to make herself a really good defensive player. So I'm a defensive minded coach. So that's been my biggest joy, is watching her develop as a defender.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
In India, you've already talked about some of these goals, with McDonald's All-American being an achievement, but is there anything left in your senior year that you really want to, still reach for? And this could be on the court, off the court.
Right now, the one goal on my mind is winning that state championship. We've been wanting to do it for 4 years, and I feel like this year we have a good chance at winning it. And I feel like that's one of my main goals. I also want those individual goals as well, like Gatorade player, all state, all of that. And I feel like that'll just come with just my performance and within the team. And I feel like winning that state championship will help that as well. Yeah, those are my main goals.
For sure. And Coach, we'll cut to that too, as from you playing, or from you standing in a coach's position, coaching this team, what's the ultimate goal that you're trying to lead them to?
Our ultimate goal is to win a state championship, and we've talked about it the last couple of years. It's kind of funny. Like, we were 14-3 last year. We were 24-3 the year before that. So we've gotten to the same point the last 2 years in the playoffs, and it's been a nice achievement, but I don't think we're content with that. And it's hard because, like, it is high school. I struggle with how much to emphasize the importance of winning a state championship, but it is your ultimate goal as a high school athlete and coach. That's kind of the pinnacle, is to do that. So we've made that our focus without really dwelling on it all the time. But that is the long-term goal.
Absolutely. And then India, final question. You are a Stanford commit. Congrats on that. Just kind of talk about, what you look forward to in playing with college and what really made that school, what you can call home for you.
Yeah. When I chose Stanford, the main thing was the academics. I aspired to be an orthopedic surgeon. So I felt like Stanford gave me the opportunity to kind of mold my major to be an orthopedic surgeon, as well as adding other things like ethics and stuff like that. I also chose Stanford because I'll be playing under the legendary Coach Tara. Yeah, I'm super excited about that. Super excited to learn from her and the players on the team that were so welcoming when I visited. I'm excited to play with them, and then the incoming recruits that are going as well.
For sure. Sounds like the perfect school for you. Well, thank you guys so much for hopping on. I really look forward to seeing how the season progresses and reaching for that state championship goal. And India, congrats on your achievements, and especially McDonald's All-American.
Thank you.
Great job by Chelsea all the way around. And I think it's important for people to understand that what India is doing really is groundbreaking in a sense for North Carolina basketball, in terms of a student athlete going this far all the way to the West Coast initially. And we've had some talented student athletes. Coach Richmond can talk about this. And Shea Ralph went to Connecticut. And then we've had our share go to UNC and Duke, and a few have gone other places. But in terms of a student athlete, McDonald's All-American, from North Carolina going west to a national championship contender year in and year out, and the sitting national champion like Stanford. Coach Richmond, is this a, if not groundbreaking, but potentially breakthrough opportunity for North Carolina high school women's basketball?
I would look at it on an individual basis. I remember Aaliyah Mazik from Myers Park went out to USC. I think her Ayanna Smith that played at Vance and Mount Creek, she went out to USC and eventually transferred to Louisville. But I think it depends on the individual kids. Most kids want to be close enough where their parents can watch them play live, not have to look at it online or, late night cable or something like that. So I don't think it's an issue as far as North Carolina players having the talent to play out west. I just think it takes a special kid to want to go out west and be that far away from home and that far away from their parents for the experience that they could get right here in their own state. Now, in her case, Stanford is an elite institution. She's playing for a Hall of Fame coach as well as an Olympic coach, a national championship coach. So that makes it unique that she mentioned she wanted to play for that particular coach. Well, that particular coach is not in North Carolina women's basketball right now. So you have to leave the state to play for somebody like that.
Also, you got to remember that, Rick always talks about make a 4-year decision to impact the next 40 years. A Stanford degree is pretty special.
Yes.
Don Staley's a great coach too in South Carolina, but South Carolina and Stanford aren't the same degrees. I don't know if that was the reason why she decided to do that, but Stanford is, as good as it gets, and not just in the United States, in the world. So congratulations.
And also what makes it different between boys and girls, a talent like that for boys, they're usually a one and done type.
Yeah.
And you don't find that with girls. They're going to play for 4 years, and then maybe go to the WNBA or Europe, but most of them are more focused on getting degrees, whereas when you find males, they're more focused on getting to the NBA.
Absolutely. Well, Chelsea, you knocked it out of the park again. I enjoyed watching that one. I didn't watch it really closely when you sent it. I wanted to watch it during the show. Great interview. I love you had the coach on there in the question. You just get so much more out of these children versus when they talk to all those old men. So I love it when you do that. Tell people how they can get on Chelsea's World.
To be featured on Chelsea's World, my Twitter and Instagram is @ChelseaSipple. My DMs are open to all athletes, parents, coaches, anyone who wants to make a recommendation for themselves or others featured, and I'd love to set something up.
I say it every week. You guys say you slept on. I hear it all the time. I'm slept on. You don't cover me. You want to get covered. You want to be on the Charlotte Observer, News Observer websites, Twitter, Instagram, everywhere. Holler at Chelsea, and literally hundreds of thousands of people will see you. Literally. So holler at Chelsea. Chelsea, thanks a lot. We'll catch you next week, okay?
I'll see y'all.
Right.
Chelsea Simple, man. I could not do that when I was in high school. I would be choking all over myself. Man, that's amazing that she could do that. All right, it's time to find out or to talk about, because I guess it's not a whole lot of finding out. We're going to talk about Mr. and Ms. Basketball on the backside of this. So Randall and Alex, I cannot get you guys to update your list. I did get you to trim it, but why are we standing pat again? And is there anybody on horizon who may make this list before we cut it to 8 in a couple of weeks?
Nope.
I think so. For instance, Kylie Chavis was cut off this list last week, and she came out and had a 22 points, 12 rebounds, 8 assists game. She's averaging 23, 10, and 7, so she could be put back on this list. I think the list that we started with, the 16, is going to be – those are going to be moving pieces probably throughout. And even when we cut it to 8, it'll probably be some kids that were taken out that'll be put back in, and kids that have been in be taken out. As I said, obviously your numbers are a big part of this, but also when you look at it, winning matters. And, there's a ton of winners on this team, and that's going to play a huge part in it at the end of the day.
I got one I want you to add. Blake Wendersee Williams up at Lake Norman High School. She put it on us twice this week. That girl is awesome. She's averaged 27 both games, double-figure rebounding, and we just didn't have an answer for her. They beat us by 4, they beat us by 3, but she is a player. She can get any kind of shot she wants, and if she misses it, she goes and gets it.
Well, I'm glad they were finally able to play some basketball games up there this week, because that's what we talked about last week. That was one of the teams that I really wanted to keep my eye out on, because we haven't got to see them as much as everybody else on this list. So
they're good.
Yeah, shout out to Emily Hagee from North Davidson. She scored a 2,000 point this last week. That's an enormous.
She's averaging 28 a night.
Yeah,
and I mean, what she's doing is unheard of.
All right, my question, Alex, is because Inja is a McDonald's All-American, are we just basically just waiting to give her Miss Basketball, or is there somebody on here who really could take it from her?
I think it's important for us to distinguish clearly, as everyone on this panel has articulated, and Randall just said once again, that winning matters. And I'll give you a reference point. Let's go back 6 years ago now, to the 2015-16 season. And Langston and I had many conversations about this, and I objected vehemently and still do object today to the selection of Idris Bam Adebayo for the many honors that he earned that year. And that's nothing against him. It's an acknowledgement of something else that went on that season. I contended at that point that he was not even the most effective player in the NCISAA that year. That was Grant Williams, and winning mattered. Neither of them were the most effective players on state championship day when Providence Day and High Point Christian squared off against each other at Ravenscroft in Raleigh. The best player on the court that day was Trey Wirtz. That's nothing against Adebayo. Tremendous talent, Olympic gold medalist, McDonald's All-American, elite NBA player. No question about that. So I think it's important for us, as everyone here has said, for us to reserve judgment, see how the rest of the season plays out, and see how these student athletes use their individual attributes, characteristics, and qualities to help their teams ascend to the highest levels possible, like Grant Williams did in 2016. He was not recognized for it. I hope we don't have a repeat of that. Now, could that be Indian Navarre? Absolutely. It could be. But it should not be a shoe-in deal just because she's a McDonald's All-American.
And it won't be. And I can tell you this.
Hold on, Randall. Y'all are picking.
Yeah, it won't be. And it's going to be. And I can tell you this. I am a big believer of class does not matter. The best basketball player on that list will win it. And I say that in regards to you take a girl like Sarah Strong, who Grace Christian might not play as strong a schedule, but she's averaging 23 points, 18 rebounds, and 6 blocks per game, and I believe 3 steals. At the end of the day, numbers matter. And I mean, being a McDonald's.
All right. Numbers matter. So what about the young lady in South Met we had on last week, who's averaging 20-something, 6 steals, 6 assists?
I mean, it's a lot of them. I mean, we took Precious off this list last week, and Precious is averaging 19 points and 17 rebounds. Like, it's hard. This is not an easy task, but at the end of the day, I think when we pick Miss Basketball, it'll be a lot of things that'll be, considered. And winning will be one of them, and stats will be one of them, and but I don't think
we announce it, I'll make sure to put your email and your phone number.
I'm sure they'll find me. They always do.
All right, Rick, what we got on the boys' side? Same deal. I can't get you to update or change this week. What we got?
Well, the biggest problem is when you add someone, we have to take someone off the list, and again, echoing what everyone else has said, I think it should be the best player on the best teams. Winning matters, and also competition matters. And you look at, I'm looking at the list, and I'm going with like Chase Lowe. He's playing for the number one team in the state with Weddington. They defending state champions. They've won 39 straight games. Again, winning matters, and he's the best player on that team, on the best team in the state. The number two team in the state is Chambers. You have two quality candidates in Daniel Sanford and in Jalen Curry. Just this weekend, Daniel Sanford had 30 points, 10 rebounds in a monster game against North Met. Again, they're the number two team in the state. Winning matters. Then you go down the list and you look at the guy that we just interviewed earlier, Cade Tyson. Carmel's the number three team in the state, and he's averaging 25 points a game and has one of the best mid-range games and going to Belmont. So, again, winning matters. And you go down the list, you got people like Jordan Crawford, who's playing with North Mech, who's put up monster numbers this year, Paul McNeil, and another person that I really liked, I think is a sleeper, and that's Patrick Wessler at Combine. They're like 16-4.
19-17 yesterday.
I mean, he's not the flashiest guy in the world, but again, we talked about scoring earlier, about the three guys that lead the country in scorings from North Carolina. When Patrick Wessler was a sophomore at Butler, he was averaging probably 24 points a game and almost 15 rebounds. If he would have stayed at Butler, he might be averaging 35 points a game today and 20 rebounds.
Yeah.
So, again, the competition does matter. And I'm looking at Combine. They've had the addition of MJ Collins, who's going to be Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
They're starting to gel a little bit, and, they could get invited to Geico, and, they're one of the top teams in the country. So you look at the players on the list, all of them are playing for a team that has a chance to win the state championship.
Yeah, shout out to Jeff McGinnis. I think he's one of the best coaches in North Carolina. I mean, certainly, I would say top three. He's doing a wonderful job. A lot of roster turnover, lost a lot of. I mean, you lose the best player in the state, and he still keep going. It's pretty special. And not that his team is talent deficient, but to have all that turnover in 1 year and kind of plan to play 1 year and switch it up.
It's not easy coaching talent.
Yeah,
it's not easy.
The egos. And the other thing, too, is if you look at what Jeff's had to overcome with the adversity, he lost at least 4 or 5 players this year. Of course, we've all known to Robert Dillingham, Omarion Bodrick, Bryce Almino all left to Donda. He also lost, another talented player that went to Word of God, and, a couple other players transferred for whatever reasons. But, anytime you lose that amount of talent and the turnover, it's going to take you a while to get back to where you should be. And with the addition of MJ Collins, you got AJ Smith, Jaden Epps, who probably deserves to be on the list as well.
Yeah, he's having a
great year. And I've had some people ask me, like, why don't you have Jaden Epps on the list? And I go, he probably deserves to be on it, but there's so many qualified people on the list. And basically, if there's some prejudice of mine, is he hasn't been from North Carolina but just 1 year. Whether that should be used right or wrong.
That's the Tracy McGrady rule
from North Carolina.
That's the Tracy McGrady rule. All right, let's find out what you guys did with the rankings. I think there's some change in that this week. Okay, Alex, I see one big shoot up. I see North Met was 17 last week, and there's number 6 this week. Tell me about what you did.
Well, what you have right here is, like we were discussing earlier, that 4A women's basketball fight club. You notice not only North Mecklenburg, but also Providence there with huge wins. So
Providence beat Charlotte Catholic that's last week.
Exactly. So, I mean, it's just what we've seen play out right here. And that whole cluster right there, beginning with Myers Park, Cannon, Providence Day, North Mecklenburg, Chambers, South Mecklenburg, Providence, Charlotte Catholic. That whole cluster right there, that's an any given day kind of deal. Like I said earlier, you're not surprised by any of this. No, this is not reason for alarm that this is opening up. No, because all of these teams have been in the mix from the get-go and are going to be in the mix from the get-go. We're seeing how strong the talent level is, how much competitive parity there is, and how exciting particularly in the 4A West, this is going to be.
Yeah,
So,
Gary, speaking about the 4A West, how big a deal will it be to have home court advantage? Because some of these teams we know are going to end up in that second round, or maybe that third round game on a Friday or Saturday. How big a deal would it be for Myers Park to play at Northern Guilford or vice versa, for example, if that would happen?
I think if you have to travel out of town, it's a big deal. But I think if just using the Mecklenburg County teams, I don't think it makes a difference where they play.
Oh, well, tell me about Northern Guilford having to come to Charlotte or Charlotte having to go to Northern Guilford.
Yeah, something like that I think makes a difference because you get officials from different referee associations.
That's where I was going. That's where
and they call the games differently. That has always been a issue for Mecklenburg County teams because generally the officials let you play here. They don't. The game in Mecklenburg County is a little bit more physical than it is in some other places. And then when you go on the road and you have officials that call everything, they call it by the book. You put your hand out there, hand check. They're calling it.
We see
sometimes that takes Mecklenburg County teams a while to adjust.
Yeah. We see the same thing in football. I mean, the Chambers coach, former Chambers coach, Glenn Fairby used to talk about it all the time, how games are officiated differently here than out of town, and they go to state championship, get 20 penalties literally in a half. So
I mean, we were talking about that North Meck Chambers game Friday night.
Yeah.
I mean, they pretty much let them play.
Right.
They let the players win the game.
They
I didn't think the officials favored one team or the other. They let the players play. They let them decide the game.
That doesn't bother me as long as it's not like ugly. I mean, that doesn't bother me. So Rick, what are we doing with the boys rankings this week?
The only really major change is, Greensboro Day, who had the number one spot for the majority of the year, lost at home to Trinity Academy. They were without their best player, Jaden Young, for the game. But that being said, they did lose at home. What's really amazing by this list is 6 of the top 10 teams are from the Charlotte area. 10 of the top 20 teams are from the Charlotte area. It just shows you how much talent there is in the 704 in the Charlotte metro area.
Rick, hold on. Let me stop you 1 second. Gary, who does Rick sound like? Sound like Grace?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But it's true. I mean, anybody that knows sports, high school sports in Charlotte, they know it's the population that allows Charlotte to have so many talented players.
Raleigh is just as big as Charlotte.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, that goes back to the story you did a while back about the influence of pro sports, how it has filtered down to the high school level. And we're seeing that manifest itself yearly.
Rick, I see West Charlotte in there at number 19. They're playing all these 4A teams. I know the record doesn't look so great, but what happens when they start playing 3A teams?
As you will know, I've had West Charlotte and Central Cabarrus as my 2 favorites in the 3A the entire year. But you're right. West Charlotte has lost to some really, really good teams. They've lost to Chambers. They've lost to North Meck. I think they lost to Providence Day. So they've lost to all their losses are quality teams. So when they start playing in a 3A, I do think it's going to come down between West Charlotte and Central Cabarrus for the state championship. Whoever wins that game should win the state championship.
Yeah.
I've been saying it from the beginning of the year, and I'll stick with it.
Yeah, no, you have said that. Before we move on, I wanted to make a quick statement. North Meck Chambers, North Meck was without one of their key players, and Coach Lewis benched him, I think, all but 1 minute of the game because he was doing something he should have been doing, missed the team bus. You don't want to hurt your team in such a big game. And shout out for Coach Lewis to, showing that discipline, because there's a lot of coaches that would be like, I'm going to sit you out a quarter. You're just not going to start. But he really, sent a message. And I think the rest of his team probably got that message loud and clear. They're like, man, he'll do this in this game with this many people with the championship on the line. So, shout out to Coach Lewis and young people out there. There's plenty of time to do those other things after your game is over. It's nothing, he was doing illegal. He just shouldn't have been doing what he was doing.
He didn't play him until the overtime.
Yeah, so that's shout out to Dwayne for doing that. I always thought he's one of the best coaches ever in North Carolina, Dwayne Lewis.
I would agree.
All right, it is time for Coach versus. Man, we got through the show quick. It's time for Coach versus Coach. So I'm gonna get out of the way, me and Rick, and let the battle begin. Alex, let me drop the theme music at some point before you get started.
right, it might be Pro Bowl Sunday in the NFL. I've got two ultimate professionals right here with me today. As always, Randall Clark, Gary Richmond. All right. Coin toss, Gary, you win. What you got? We deferring or are we receiving?
I'll defer.
All right, here we go, Randall. All right. Question number 1. NCHSAA state playoffs. East, West regions as it is right now. Should we stick with that, or should we go to more of an open deal where we have a situation where, like, you have the 2 best teams who are in the West or in the East, wherever, where they can meet in the state final? What do you think?
I think you should just keep it the way it is if you're going to do it to where we're going to keep the privates and publics separate. There are some states where they just throw everybody in together and you just battle it out. And if you're going to do it to where you're going to keep everybody separate, let's have an East and a West winner. Let's have somebody represent from the East. Let's have somebody represent from the West. Obviously, in some years, you're not going to get the best game that you possibly could. But if you're going to do it the way it's set up now, just leave it alone and let it be the way it is.
Coach Richmond?
I'm for an open classification. I think some of the university or conferences are doing that. I know the Big 12, they always say first and second, we're going to play championships. We're not going divisional route. I think that way I wouldn't say you guarantee, but the opportunity to get the 2 best teams, regardless of their geographic location, you have them on the opposite side of the bracket, then you have a better chance of seeing the 2 best teams play for the championship. And that's what you want, is the 2 best teams to play. There are too many times where you may have the 3 or 4 best teams on one side of the state and one good team on the other, and the 3 or 4 teams, they knock each other off, and the team on the other side of the state, they cruise to the championship. So I think you almost guarantee, I won't say you guarantee, but I think you have a greater opportunity to have the 2 best teams make it to the championship game if you do not seed people based on geographic location. Now, I'm still for a 4A classification, a 3A classification, etc. I don't think you should throw everybody in the mix, but I don't think you should do it by geography.
And that debate will continue. You have the geographical interest, which plays over to economics. Then you have, as Coach Richmond said, the interest in terms of teams who history might overlook because they had their best teams when somebody else was there too. So that age-old argument both ways will continue. All right, moving right along here. If we can get our legendary skill development specialist here back with us.
My bad, guys. My bad. Sorry about that.
He's kind of rattled because he lost earlier, and
it has thrown off the whole day. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Well, we're still going to acknowledge that just there's still a reason that Randall's wearing that gold sweatshirt right there. Is because even though he did take an L earlier today, he still is the gold standard for skill development trainers in the state. So still is the gold standard. Okay, state championships. We've seen them on college campuses. We've seen them in high school venues. Obviously, these last couple of years have been a little different with COVID circumstances. Should the NCHSAA, should they cease using college campuses? Are college campuses still the way to go? Should we go to high school venues? Should we go to municipal venues? Randall, start us off.
No, I think we leave it alone. I think that the kids enjoy the fact that they get to go to Chapel Hill, no matter how terrible a place that is, on Championship Saturday. Like the fact that they get to be in there and, all these people can come watch them play. You get to see multiple games. It's not too far out for anybody to get there. So I think for everybody around the state, having them on college campuses makes it beneficial for everybody, especially the kids.
Randall, you just had to mention Chapel Hill right there. I will take this opportunity to note that despite the outcome of the game, that Gary Richmond's team had a better performance in the Smith Center in 2003 than the Tar Heels did last night. So,
well, it's not hard to have a better performance than the Tar Heels had last night.
Hey, look, hey, Alex, an L is an L. Nobody ever remembers the score. Yeah, we lost by 3 points. Yeah, I remember, but I don't think anybody else remembers how many we lost by. They just remember we lost. You know, an L is an L.
I remember this, but you remember a proud head coach after the game, because if you could walk away from a post game where the runner-up coach says, and I quote, "They did not beat us because of effort. They beat us because of Pringle," as in LaToya Pringle. When your runner-up coach can say that, I'll take that any day of the week. So for someone who's been in a championship situation, what do you think about this, Gary?
I like a municipal site, really. I think Greensboro is centrally located. That's where we had the coaches' clinics. That's where we had all-star games. I think it's easier access from all over the state. It's big enough. When they have it in the auxiliary, I think the backdrop makes a difference. You know, kids are used to playing in smaller venues, and then you get on a college campus and the backdrop, a lot of times the shooting percentage will go down in a big arena because the kids are not used to playing in a big arena. So I don't think it's pressing. I mean, if the colleges still want to donate their facilities, I don't have a problem with it, but I don't see anything wrong with, you know, meeting in the center of the state in Greensboro and rotating it out that way.
Hey, I just want to point out for everyone right there, the two not so subtle references that Coach Richmond made there. He said the shooting percentages go down. Well, that's not a problem for Joe Badgett, because it doesn't matter. If you don't defend, it doesn't matter. You're not going to get to shoot. Your shooting percentage is going to go down anyway, because you're going to be on the bench with him. And the other subtle reference, not so subtle reference he made there, it's not pressing. Yes, as in the legend, Preston McLean, whose teams pressed all the time and were very, very successful in doing that as well. So shout out to Enloe and legend Preston McLean. So very well done there. All right, and one more question here. Open enrollment. We've seen it from one school system to another. We've seen different versions of open enrollment. Are we to a point where it's going to be better off, not just athletically or otherwise, some type of open enrollment in some form, and what would that look like? Randall, start us off.
I mean, I think it would just be too hard to track. I think you got kids coming from all over the place, and now it becomes a place where I'm really good at X sport, so I'm going to go here, and I'm really good at this sport, so I'm going to go here. And then it sort of becomes a transfer portal of college basketball, because then if you have all these players that can really play, everybody's not going to be happy, and all of a sudden is, I don't like it over here, so let me go here. I don't like this here, so let me go there. It becomes more of a headache and a hassle than it's worth.
And Gary, as someone who in a football coaching capacity had the privilege of dealing firsthand with a student athlete who played for, I think it was 5 schools in 3 days, if I remember correctly. I can't even remember how many schools were involved, but given your in the trenches experience on this, what would you say?
Well, you know, assigning kids to a school and then carrying over for athletics, I think making kids play at a certain school is kind of like a form of a salary cap. You know, it's a way to balance the talent around a community, around a county, around a region, what have you. And I think you kind of need that, because we're seeing in college now with the transfer portal and kids just leaving, you know, mid-season, end of the season, football, basketball, and just going from school to school, playing for 3 or 4 schools, and it's all based on playing time. It's not based on development. It's not based on winning. It's not based on being able to handle adversity. I think assigning students that you have to go, if you go to this school, you got to play here, and then making it hard for them to go play elsewhere is a way, the high school version of a salary cap. Now, we know pro teams, they find ways around the salary cap. The NBA has a luxury tax. They're like, okay, you can go over the cap to sign your own player, or you can pay X amount of dollars to the league in a luxury tax to get around the salary cap. But I think you need some parameters for athletic participation, because it's still associated with education. And you have to remember that all these kids playing high school sports is still associated with education, and the education has to come first. Athletics is an opportunity. Okay. Education is a requirement.
Absolutely, and very well said. I'd like to acknowledge there the reference to the luxury tax, also a nod to the days past as a maneuver used so very well by the Dallas Cowboys.
You're just trying to make my day entirely miserable. You bring it up, the Cowboys. I kind of, I've gone cold turkey off football. And then y'all bring it up, the Tar Heels last night.
Is Rick frozen or Rick sleep? Which one is it? Rick, are you frozen or sleep? Rick, take a little nap before talking preps. Rick, what do you think about this last question? Do you think school systems should allow open enrollment for athletes?
I don't. I think you hit the nail on the head. We're also seeing the transfer portal, what you're seeing on the collegiate side, sort of trickle down on the high school side. You're already getting kids transferring midway through the season from a public school to a private, or a private school to the non-association school. So it's sort of gotten out of control a little bit.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of kids move in the middle of the senior year, which is kind of weird. You get to your senior year, you're the big man on campus, and now all of a sudden you're going to a new school altogether. It's new. Like jumping again, it's told me for a story I wrote this week. It's a new world out here.
That was a great series about those pop-up schools. I enjoyed that storyline.
I hope everybody gets a chance to read this on the Charlotte Observer webpage. At the moment, it'll be there for a while. It was a lot of work, but it sure was worth it. Shout out to Liberty Heights for letting me come over and write about Silas Demery and their school and kind of center that piece around that. So shout out to Michael Wright, real nice guy. I never met him before. Real nice guy, Michael Wright, and is trying to do the right thing over there. All right, it is time. I'm hitting the wrong button. It is time for the big star to finish us out. The newly submitted loss. Big star to talk about his final thoughts.
Final thoughts. This week, I want to talk about the defensive end of the floor. Yes, that's right. I want to talk defense. I got a chance to watch a lot of games, and, as much as guys take pride on the offensive end, not a lot of pride being taken on the defensive end sometimes. A lot of possessions being taken off. A lot of straight line drives with no resistance being given up. One thing I learned early in my coaching career when watching a lot of greats coach the game of basketball is there's two people that can guarantee that they're going to play a lot of minutes if you're on a good basketball team. One being the team's best rebounder. That person's going to play a ton of minutes on the floor. And the second, the best defender. I always tell kids, if you want to play a lot of minutes, you want to be one of those two people because you can guarantee that you'll stay on the floor and not have to worry about coming out if you're missing threes or